If you're thinking about buying your first property, but you don't know where to start, let me walk you through the 7 steps to buying your first investment property in the UK. From setting clear goals to finding the right deal, arranging finance and managing your property. This video will have everything you need, so let's get into it. So before you spend any money in investing or think about doing any investing, the very first step you have to do is set your investment goals. Now, there's a few things when it comes to setting investment goals, and I'm going to go through some of them. The first one is to understand what is your financial objective. And when I talk about financial objective, are you investing in cash flow or are you investing in appreciation? Now, generally speaking, it's one or the other. And in an ideal world, we would like both. And there are certain ways of doing a hybrid where you can, for example, invest in a higher appreciating area like London and combining it with a strategy, a higher cash flowing strategy. But generally speaking, if you try to go for cash flow and try to go for appreciation, it rarely happens. You have to pick with one or the other. And the good thing is that you can change your financial objective as you go further along in your property journey. I'll give you my example. When I first started out, I was only looking for cash flow, but now I've changed my investment strategy where I'm now focusing on appreciating assets, but maybe they won't cash flow as much. And then the second thing you have to think about is your strategy. Generally speaking, when you're starting out, there's a few strategies that you probably want to consider. One is the buy to let, where you've got a property and you're renting it out to a single family or a single couple or anyone on a single AST. Then you've got a HMO where you're splitting the room and you're renting the property out on a room by room basis. That obviously has higher cash flow, but of course it comes with higher cost, a higher initial capital, and of course there's a lot more wear and tear. So you need to be aware of that before you get into HMOs. And then the service accommodation. Service accommodation is where you're renting the property out essentially on a short-term basis on Airbnb and Booking.com. So they all have their own pros and cons, and the pros and cons you can talk about them for a lot longer, but just understand the first you need to understand, are you going for cash flow appreciation? Then you want to really choose your strategy. Are you going for buy-to-let, HMO, service accommodation? No matter what you choose, you have to stick to one and give it a good go, because the last thing you want to do is you want to go for a higher cash flowing asset, and then you want to go for a high appreciating asset, and then go for a buy to let. You're never going to be able to do a good job. And then once you've kind of figured out what route you want to go down in terms of, you know, the cash flow appreciation and then your strategy, then you need to also figure out what you can afford, because there's no point going for a HMO, which is a lot higher when it comes to in the investment required compared to a buy to let, if you haven't got that cash. So I always say this, that your budget kind of determines what kind of strategy you can go for. So always have the budget in mind and what you can afford as well. And then on top of budget, the last thing I would say when it comes to setting investment goal is also being self-aware to understand what your risk tolerance is, because it could be that yes, you may want a lot of cash flow, who doesn't, but maybe you're not willing to invest that much money into an asset, or maybe you're not willing to accept that during some months you may not be able to get the rent you receive. If you're looking for consistent cash flow, then maybe you want to go for buy to let. If you're okay with highs and lows, then maybe service accommodation you want to go. So it's important to set your investment goals, and by being familiar with all these things, so your strategy, cash flow appreciation, your budget, and also your risk tolerance. We'll get back to the video in a few seconds, but 70% of you watching this video aren't subscribed to my channel. Please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button and buy more properties in the next few months. I'll be sharing everything so you can learn from my mistakes for free. Anyways, back to the video. And then we move on to number 2, which is researching the property market. Now, this is very important, and the reason why it's very important, because unless you do this, you're going to lose a lot of money. Sorry, my writing is all over the place. The reason why researching your property market is so crucial is because unless you do this, you could end up losing money. There's a saying that money is made when buying a property, not selling, and researching what you are buying is one of the crucial steps into buying, right? So what are the things that you want to be looking at when it comes to analyzing the property? The main things are the yields and the growth potential. I'll give you my example. The reason why I started investing in the Northeast is that there were multiple articles, Savills and Hamptons and so on, where they were predicting predicting that the Northeast, because of its history of it not growing as much compared to the others, it is only a matter of time till the Northeast will bounce back up and catch up with the rest of the areas. So I decided Northeast because I had done my research and I'd figured out that actually Northeast is a good place to invest because one, it produces good cash flow, and all the signs and the research were suggesting that it was going to grow in the next few years. And then you can do a few other things. One is where you're comparing the rental demand versus the actual supply. Okay, because if the rental demand is a lot, but there's not enough supply, then you know you're onto a winner because you know then that area is good for rent. Another thing I do is keep an eye on local developments or regeneration plans, and this is easy enough to do. You can just type the city name into Google and type in regeneration or development plans, and you know most of the stuff comes on. Another tip is you can just go simply on the council, because the council will have a portal where they will have all the development plans and the regeneration plans. So that's another one. And then also look at the areas that you're investing in or you're thinking of investing in. Does it have good transport links? Does it have good amenities? Are there good schools there? And hospitals is another one. These little things is what basically makes the area more attractive. So once you've gone through deciding what your investment goals are and you've started to do a bit of research on the market, then you need to arrange finance. Now, when it comes to arranging finance, there's a few things. First, you need to understand how much cash do you have or how much money do you have right now to be able to invest, or if you're investing further down the line, how much money will I have at the time? And then you just have to make a simple decision of whether you're buying with cash or whether you are buying it with a mortgage. And it's most likely that you may be purchasing with a mortgage, and then you got to figure out what kind of mortgage. Are you going on an interest only? Are you going on a repayment? Or are you going on a bridging loan? Now, generally speaking, for buy to let or any investment properties, most of them will be interest only, but you got to understand, are you going to go for a standard buy-to-let mortgage, or if the property is going through refurb, then it's most likely that you'll need a bridging finance. And if I'm confusing you already when it comes to bridging loans and so on, the best thing to do, and I always advise this to anyone, even if experienced or inexperienced, is to get a mortgage broker. Because the thing with a mortgage broker, yes, they will charge you some money, but a good broker will be able to save you that money and give you a tailored product based on what you're looking for. Another thing I'd advise is, apart from a mortgage broker, is to get a mortgage in principle even before you start buying, because that way you know exactly how much you can afford. When you start off putting offers on properties, you'll get your offer accepted a lot quicker and you'll be able to complete the transaction a lot quicker if you have a mortgage in principle in place. When it comes to finances, you also want to take into account or consider all the other costs that will come when it comes to purchasing property. So you already know about your deposit. There's stamp duty, there's legal fees, there's mortgage broker fees. There's so many other costs that come into play. So just make sure that you're aware of them, the number one. And then number two is that you have that money to be able to make sure that your purchase is smooth. Once your finances have been sorted, then you can start thinking about step number 4, which is building out a power team. Now, I would start thinking about building a power team even before you start thinking about your first property, because the thing is, in order for a property transaction to happen, you need these people in place anyway. So apart from a mortgage broker, which I've already gone through, a mortgage broker is worth its weight because the fee that you pay a mortgage broker, you'll be able to save that in the long term. Also, they give you other product options that you probably weren't aware of. They're more up to date with the market, so they'll be able to know what's good for you or not. The second one is an accountant. Now, an accountant is crucial because it depends on what kind of role you want your accountant to do, but they can help set up your limited company, they can give you tax advice, they can give you structured advice, and accountant is one of them. You don't really understand how good accountants can be until you get a good one, and I was like this. My first few accountants weren't very good. It's only when I got a good accountant, I paid a bit more, that you realize that they help you save a lot more money. And it's almost like you should see an accountant as an investment, because the money you're going to invest in an accountant, you should hopefully get 2, 3, 4, 5 times more back by tax savings, different tricks, different strategies. So yeah, having an accountant is crucial if they've got property experience, if they're property investors themselves, or they're already managing property investors or keeping books of property investors, then that's a bonus as well. Mortgage broker, accountant, and then the third one I'd say is a solicitor. Now, I've had so many solicitors, and solicitors kind of get a bad name, and it's rightly so, because most of them aren't very good. Now, to be fair to solicitors are generally overworked, right? They've got a lot of work on. There's not that many solicitors in a firm, for example, but a good solicitor can help you sidestep any problems when it comes to a property transaction, because I've had it a few times where initially I didn't have a good solicitor and they kept on delaying, they wouldn't get back to me properly, and as a result I lost a couple of deals where I would have been able to make money. So a good solicitor on your side is crucial because they help the transaction keep going along, and they can basically spot any pitfalls in the transaction as well. So how do you get a good solicitor? Now sometimes it's all about trial and error, sometimes about getting good recommendations. If you can ask your network, if somebody's already used a particular solicitor and they recommend, then it's most likely that they will do a decent job. Final member of your core power team is a builder. Now builders, they get a bad name, and rightly so, because again a lot of them are not very good, or they like run away from half completed projects and so on. But essentially you can increase your chances of hiring a good builder by recommendations, by going on websites like Checkatrade and MyBuilder where there's reviews, because the reality is that a lot of these people that you hire, they may or may not work the first time. You might have to try a couple of them for you to find the right one, and even that some people may be good for you at the start of your journey, and as you grow you may need to replace them because you've outgrown them. So just always be mindful that just because you hire someone now, that doesn't mean that they should be working with you forever. If they can, that's great, but the reality is that most core members, you're always interchanging and you're always looking for new ones. Other mentions when it comes to your power team could be an insurance broker, a surveyor for your valuations, and a structural surveyor. So these are people that you need to start thinking about because they will be crucial for you to start a property business. Then we come on to number 5, which is find the right property. So what the right property is, it really boils down to ultimately what your investment goals are that you thought about in step 1. But I'll just go through some of the things that come to my mind when I look for, is it a right property? Number 1, the first and most important thing is that will I get an ROI on it? Because an investment, you're investing to make money. So I need to understand, am I able to make money off that property, right? Usually the key metric I look at is ROI, and generally speaking, I look for a 15 to 20% ROI just based on cash flow. If I can get that, then I'm happy. The other few things that you want to be looking at when it comes to finding the right property is the area. Is it in a good area? Is it near transport links? Is it near schools? Is it near hospitals? Is the rental market hot? Then you need to consider that can you add value to the property? That's probably one of the most important ones as well, because I know if I'm able to add value, I can then, number 1, instantly increase the value of the property, which allows me to do the BRR strategy, which is buy, refurb, rent, refinance. If you're buying properties in poor condition, that's where you're able to add value, and where you can add value, that's where you can make money. Generally speaking, if you've seen some of my other videos, I only tend to buy rundown properties because I know the rundown properties are where they tend to be cheaper, that you can add value, you can add money. Which brings me probably to the next one, is buying below market value opportunities. Now, buying rundown properties and buying below market value opportunities, they kind of go hand in hand, because if they're rundown, not many people are going to want it, and therefore they have to sell it for cheaper. But there are other instances as well where you can purchase below market value. Maybe someone wants a quick sale, maybe it's a probate property, maybe it's a problem property for the seller, but maybe you can solve that. If you can purchase a property below market value, which means below what it should be selling for, then you're instantly making money just by purchasing that property. So those are the kind of few things that you need to be looking at when it comes to purchasing the right property. So after you find the right property, the next step will be to make the offer and purchase the property. Now, when it comes to making the offer and purchasing the property, you may have heard the saying that if your offer does not embarrass you, then it's not low enough. And I kind of agree with that, because ultimately you don't want to be paying full price or the asking price for the property, because you want to be negotiating deals to be able to get a discount. And that doesn't mean that you have to now purchase every property below asking price. But generally speaking, if you can get a property below asking price, then it's most likely that you will make more money. But ultimately, it's all about the numbers. If you can still purchase the property at asking price and you're still making money, then you can run with that. And another thing I wanted to mention is that making offers is really a bit of a numbers game. It would be unreasonable for you to think that the very first property that you put the offer on, you will get, because you're competing with others. And at the end of the day, making offers is a repetition game. The more numbers you put in, the more offers that you put in, the more chances of you getting an offer accepted. So this is another thing that I wanted to mention, that do not be disheartened if you keep getting your offers rejected. And sometimes when you start getting your offers rejected, then you sometimes want to force a deal through, start wanting to pay a bit more just to get it over the line. Never get emotional proportional to the outcome. Always understand that it's all about the numbers. So don't let your feelings get in the way of formulas. Okay, it's ultimately a numbers game when it comes to making offers, and it's ultimately an ROI game when it comes to an investment. You should only invest in a property if you are making money. Once you've had an offer accepted, then you should go into the conveyancing stage where the solicitor handles pretty much everything. And then once the solicitor is ready and you're able to complete on the property, then we move on to the 7th step, which is manage and maintain the property. Now, when it comes to managing properties, I always believe that you should hire a property manager from the start. And the reason why I say that is because most people that I talk to, and I've talked to hundreds of people now, so I have got enough data to come to the conclusion that most people, they get into property for it to be a passive income or income on the side, a bit of a side or and a retirement pot. But if you start managing properties yourself, the reality is that it becomes another job for you, because there's so many moving parts, there's so much stuff happening. The last thing you want to do is manage the property yourself, start dealing with tenants and so on, and repairs and leaks, and then you end up hating property, because that is a surefire way for you not to succeed in property. You want to make property as easy as possible for you as an investment, because it's only then that you truly want to double down on property side of things. And another thing is that if you're managing properties yourself, there's so many now rules and regulations that you simply just cannot know. You cannot keep up with them. So the last thing you want to do is that you doing something and you didn't know the rules or the regulation, and you basically breaking the law, because that could cost you and you could be punished for that. So rather than having to collect the rent, sorting all the repairs and maintenance, what I would do is just get a property manager who will manage all of this for you, and then property can truly be an investment for you, not another job. If you enjoyed this video and you are in the process, or you're looking to purchase your first investment property in the future, then analyzing a property is crucial. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put up a video called how to analyze a property using no calculators or spreadsheets. It's very valuable. You need to know your numbers, so go watch that video, and I'll see you soon.